Week 12 in the NFL is already here. Hard to believe it. Each week going by quicker and quicker. Next week, we got the Thanksgiving games already. But after back-to-back really good NFL slates, we have another pretty solid one too, and a nice balance on our big 5 games of the week here. Thursday night game with some playoff implications. Sunday, 1 o'clock, huge game between the Colts and the Chiefs. Chiefs clinging on for their lives. Cowboys still in the mix, potentially in the NFC. In the wild card, a really big Sunday night game, and then even a Monday night game. So a really nice balance this week on the NFL schedule. Last week was really fun. We had some chaotic games. Seahawks almost came back to shock the Rams. Bucks Bills put up a lot of points. We both talked about liking the over in that game. So a fun week last week, but a big week coming up this week before we get into Thanksgiving, Kev.
Yeah, no, it's definitely starting to – you're seeing playoff implications, the playoff stand-ins. You're seeing who's in the hunt and all those fun graphics. So every game's starting to really, really mean something.
Yeah, and just like always, things are not all leading to what we expected at the beginning of the year. You got the Patriots at 9-2 in first place in the AFC East. The Broncos in first place in the AFC East as well. In the AFC West. The AFC North, just a hodgepodge of teams. Looking like it'll come down to the Steelers and Ravens. Aaron Rodgers now banged up. You got the Bears at the top of the NFC North. I don't think anyone had that. Panthers in the mix for a playoff spot, and then the NFC West, a gauntlet with the 8-2 Rams, the 7-3 Seahawks, and the 7-4 Niners. So a lot of different stuff going on. I don't really think anyone in the league has really pulled away. You look at the Patriots at 9-2, the Broncos at 9-2, and the Eagles at 8-2, and everyone can pick their fair share of flaws with those teams. So I think we're setting up for a fun couple months here down the stretch. But we'll start on Thursday night with the Bills at 7-3. They'll be traveling to Houston to play the 5-5 Texans. 8:15 kick on Thursday Night Football on Amazon. Bills 3.5-point favorite. Over under is 43.5. Thoughts on this matchup, Kev?
Yeah, I'm going Bills 24, Texans 14. So Bills cover 3.5, under 43.5. CJ Stroud is going to be missing this game, his third straight game here due to his concussion. So it's going to be Davis Mills again. He's led them to 2 victories the past 2 weeks against the Jags and Titans, and he's played pretty decent in both games. He's proven he's more than a competent backup. And then for the Texans, their defense is also arguably the best in the league. They're allowing just over 16 points a game, 87 yards on the ground the game, and 171 through the air, all of which are top 3 in the league. And then Davis Mills has also been making some plays with his legs, and he's been getting the ball to Nico Collins, who just has big playability. But with that being said, I'm going with the Bills, and that's kind of just because of Josh Allen. He has 28 total TDs this year so far, and he shows it week in and week out. He can kill you with his arm and his legs. And then the Bills defense is very good at defending the pass, ranking top 5 in TDs given up and yards per game. The Bills are not very good at stopping the run, but I think lucky for them, the Texans aren't very good at running it. The Texans offense also ranks 31st in red zone scoring. So I think Josh Allen's going to be able to make enough plays to overcome the elite Texans defense, and the Texans offense is going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on this Bills team kind of as a Super Bowl contender. Anytime you got Josh Allen, obviously you got a chance at the end of the day, but it's a defense that has allowed 40 points this season. They've allowed 21 to the Dolphins, who have been playing better recently, but still nothing great there. They allowed 19 to the Saints, who, as we know, have really struggled this season. 23 to the Patriots, 24 to the Falcons. They allowed 21 to the Chiefs. Then they allowed 30 to the Dolphins, and then last week they allowed 32 to the Buccaneers. So not exactly the greatest defense, most intimidating defense, but I do think, give them the benefit of the doubt this week against Davis Mills. As you touched on, their 2 wins were with Davis Mills leading the way against the Titans, who are on a 2-year run of some of the worst football we've ever seen, I think. And then that Jags comeback for the Texans a couple weeks ago was, a pretty lucky come-from-behind performance. So I don't really think they're able to string together 3 in a row, and it is a shame because – with CJ Stroud out now for his 3rd game, you have to wonder, how really serious is that concussion? I know on the short week it's doing him no favors, but that defense has been so good this year. The offense, Nico Collins is actually starting to take off a little bit, but nothing in the running game. CJ Stroud not in, I think that still kind of limits what that offense is actually able to do at the end of the day. And the offensive line has been one of the worst in the league this year. So if the Bills defense is going to show up and come to play on any game this season, I think this game kind of adds up to one of those matchups. Even though they're going on the road, I still like them to win and cover. And I like the under of 43.5 in this one. I think we see a lower scoring matchup. Josh Allen kind of pulls some rabbits out of his hat against a strong Texans defense and makes a couple plays late to win and to cover. So I'll go 24-17 Bills. Bills minus 3.5, under 43.5. All right, Sunday, we go to the 1 o'clock window on CBS. The Colts at 8-2 coming off a bye. They go to Kansas City to play the 5-5 Chiefs. Chiefs minus 3.5, over under 49.5. And, last week I felt like everybody was picking the Chiefs. They were a favorite. At the Broncos, we've been all talking about how the Broncos are a fraudulent team all season, and they've just found ways to go out there and win. And I said it on another show last week, but the Broncos give off very Eagles vibes. That defense is elite. It's going to keep them in there. The offense kind of just has to not screw it up. And we've seen both those teams do that for a fair share of the season, and even with the Broncos going to Philly and beating them. But you look at the Chiefs sitting here at 5-5. Down the stretch, they have this game against the Colts that go to Dallas, which I don't think it is an easy task because that offense can put up points versus the Texans. Who knows what that defense? The Chargers, who already beat them this year, at the Titans, they should be able to get it done. They host the Broncos, and then at the Raiders. I think 10-7, there's a good chance they get in. But if I'm the Chiefs, I don't want to lose more than one game the rest of the way to feel like I'm definitely getting in what is a really crowded AFC kind of playoff standings. If you look at it, the Chiefs, as of today, obviously aren't in the mix, but they're in ninth place in the playoffs as of right now for the AFC. Even the Texans are above them. The Jags at 6-4, Chargers at 7-4, Bills at 7-3, all in the wild card, 2 games up on them. Jags have the tiebreaker over them as well. Chargers have a tiebreaker over them. Bills have a tiebreaker over them. The Chiefs have an uphill climb here. Is this a must-win game for the rest of their season, you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it is a must-win game, and I'm choosing them to win this game, a close game, 24-23. So the Colts cover 3.5, under 49.5. This is just a game that I don't think Mahomes loses. I mean, that's what I said last week, and then he ended up losing that game, obviously. And it's probably what is said before most games he plays in. It's just not a game he loses, but they are 5-5, which is just so out of the ordinary for them. The Colts this week coming off a bye, while like you mentioned, the Chiefs had a tough loss last week against the Broncos, and the Chiefs were coming off their bye that week. So that was kind of another shocker related to the loss last week against the Broncos. But Mahomes has generally played pretty well this year with 18 TDs, 6 picks, and the third best QBR in the league. But the Chiefs just seem to be getting a little unlucky this year, ball not bouncing their way as it has in previous years. They're 0-5 in one-score games this year, and you compare that to last year where they were 11-0, and their record-breaking streak of 17 straight one-score victories was ended this year in their first loss. But 11-0 last year was crazy, but this year so is 0-5. I think, like most things, the answer is somewhere in the middle, and I think the Chiefs should be scared, though. The Colts offense is legit, as they're number 1 in EPA per play, number 2 in success rate. Jonathan Taylor's just been a monster all season, and Daniel Jones has continued to play well. I think I'll continue just giving Mahomes the benefit of the doubt, even though it really hasn't worked out well this year, but I'm going Chiefs winning a close one here.
Yeah, I think you said it best, where the thing that's come down to this year for the Chiefs, all those close one-score games over these past few seasons, starting to kind of even out the other way, and they're dropping some of these close games. And it's, have they lost kind of some of that magic to them? Maybe potentially, but you touched on it too, where it kind of evens out and it's more so in the middle. So in what I'm expecting to be a really close game here, and a Colts team that, barring anything crazy, I think it's going to win the division. They're going to need the Jaguars or the Texans to get hot down the stretch, and the Colts are really going to need to struggle down the stretch. So this game doesn't really have as much importance to them, but for seeding wise, it does. If you lose this game, and the Broncos and the Patriots both win this week, then you're a full game behind them in terms of potentially getting that 1 seed. So there still is a lot of onus on this game for the Colts, but it's a desperate Chiefs team, and what we called a desperate Chiefs team last week that didn't win on the road, they get the opportunity to come back at home this week. So I think that they find a way to get this done. I think the offense is still capable of put up some points. They've just been a little bit inconsistent. And in the last few weeks, we've kind of seen Daniel Jones. He's struggled a little bit more than we saw him kind of at the beginning of the year. I think that the Chiefs find a way to get this one done at home. I like the over. I think we get some points in this game, but give me the Colts to at least cover that 3.5 by the hook there. I'll go 27-24 Chiefs over the Colts. So Colts plus 3.5 over 49.5. All right, Sunday afternoon, 4:25 on Fox. I was surprised to see this as the line for this matchup, but Eagles at 8-2 will travel to Dallas to play the 4-5-1 Cowboys, coming off a blowout win on Monday Night Football. Eagles, though, only a 3.5-point favorite here, over under 48. Eagles coming off 2 wins over 2 of the top teams in the NFL, and the Packers and the Lions, also owning wins over the Chiefs, owning wins over the Rams, owning wins over the Bucks. And only a 3.5-point favorite here. That offense has been struggling, but that defense has been great. I think we get a high-powered Cowboys offense versus a really strong Eagles defense. Who do you think comes out on top in this one?
I have the Eagles winning a close one, 24-23. So Cowboys cover the 3.5, under 48. The Cowboys offense is always scary, especially in Dallas on that turf. They just seem to play super fast. Dak always seems to play really well down there in Arlington, but I'm going with the Eagles because of the defense. The past 2 weeks, they have let up just 7 and 9 points to the Packers and Lions, who both have just super good offenses. And I think the Eagles defense will be able to force a turnover or two, and that will be the difference. The Eagles are now an NFL best 34-1 since 2022 when they win their turnover margin, and the Eagles just don't turn it over. They have 4 all year so far. The Cowboys defense, I think, can still be ran on a little bit, and I think the Eagles and Saquon may be able to get back a little bit back on track this week on the ground. For the Eagles, the O-line injuries are a huge concern, though, especially Lane Johnson being out. The team's record with him in the lineup since the start of 2016 is 96-41-1, and then without him in that same time, they're just 12-23. So losing him, huge thing. They have a bunch of other dudes injured, banged up on the offensive line. So that's always something to watch out. It was a concern for me last week going against the Lions. But the defense is playing so well that I think they'll be able to limit the Cowboys' offense. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to end up doing what he always seems to do, which is just make enough plays to win the game.
Yeah, that stat about Lane is pretty insane. I've seen a lot of people this week kind of comparing him to Jason Peters, where he's on the back leg of his career now. And we even heard Lane at the beginning of the season. I think he said maybe like if they won the Super Bowl this year, he would probably hang it up. But he also said he was feeling like he was in his prime, so kind of contradicting himself. But when he's been on the field, he's been really good, but he's also to that, like I said, Jason Peters part of his career where he seems to come out every single game for a different type of injury. I do have a lot of faith in Fred Johnson. Obviously, it's going to be a step back from Lane, but I still think he's going to be capable enough to help that offense. And it's an offense that surely needs a lot of help. Last week was the first week where even I was like, I'm more so the guy of win's a win. You found a way to get it done. You didn't turn the football over, and the defense came to play. I'll take that. But last week, it was my first time where I was kind of really concerned. So this is, as I touched on in the beginning, a matchup of a really high-powered defense with Philadelphia, really high-powered offense with the Cowboys. Which unit comes out on top? Cowboys more desperate. I think their division chances are completely gone, but they still have a chance to fight for a wild card spot here down the stretch with some wins. Eagles, though, playing for a 1 seed pretty much at this point. Can they find a way to go and beat Dallas for the second time this year? That's got to be the main focus. Doesn't have to be pretty, but you just have to find a way to get it done. Cowboys, though, in desperation mode. I thought they played the Eagles tough in the first in the first game of the season earlier this year. I think they have the pieces to keep this game close and cover that 3.5 at home. But I am going to take the Eagles 24-21. I'll go Cowboys plus 3.5 under 48. This is a matchup, though, for Philadelphia. Kind of reminds me of the Giants a couple weeks ago where that defense was clearly not up to par to stop the Eagles offense. And the Eagles offense looked really strong in that matchup. They probably had their best game of the entire season in that one. Can they do that against this really porous Cowboys defense this week? That's going to be the main thing I'm looking for. But I do like the Eagles to find a way to get it done as long as they can win that turnover battle yet again. So Eagles 24, Cowboys 21, Cowboys plus 3.5 under 48. All right, we got Bucks at 6-4 at Rams 8-2, 8:20 kick on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Rams 6.5-point favorite. Over under is 49.5. Bucks reeling as of late. Rams big win over the Seahawks last week.
Yeah, I'm going Rams winning and covering 27-17 under 49.5. The Rams are really, really good. And then, like you said, the Bucks kind of faltering lately. I'm still high on the Bucks, and I would not want to see them in the playoffs. But I think this Rams team is just on another level. Bucky Irvin and Chris Godwin's status for this game are obviously important, but either way, I'm still going Rams. Josh Allen last week torched the Bucks secondary for over 300 yards and 3 TDs. I think Matt Stafford can do the same this week. The Rams are 4th in the league in big plays, which is plays over 20 yards or more, and the Bucks have given up the 3rd most 20 plus yard completions so far this year. The Rams offense didn't look incredible last week against Seattle, but it's still crazy to look at the numbers Stafford's on pace for. He's currently on pace for 4,300 yards, 46 touchdowns, and just 3 picks. I think the Bucks do need to be careful here this week and the rest of the season, as the Panthers and them both currently have 6 wins. I wouldn't be too concerned if I were the Bucks, though, because they still do play them twice, but I think it's something to keep an eye on. I think the Rams are arguably the best team in football right now, so I'm going them winning by 10 against the Bucks.
Yeah, Bucks, you touched on it. Really got to play careful over the rest of the season. Coming into the year, they were my team coming out of the NFC, but they just have not been able to stay healthy. Chris Godwin has never been able to get on the field. Bucky Irving, I think when he's healthy, is one of the top 5 to 10 running backs in the NFL. Mike Evans obviously out. Emeka Egbuka has been awesome this year. Baker, I think with what he's had at his disposal has been really good. But this Bucks team has just not been able to stay healthy. And we saw, too, on the defensive end last week, Josh Allen and the Bills took advantage of them. And I think you touched on it, too, where the Rams, I'm not going to say they're the best team in the NFC or the NFL, because I think the Eagles are that until proven otherwise. The Eagles just continue to find ways to win, including finding a way to win over the Rams. So I won't give them that label, but I do think that they're the Eagles' biggest competitor in the NFC. I do like the Rams to win this game, though. I think that offense is just moving at a different level with when both Puka and Devontae are in the mix. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum form a really nice 1-2 punch at running back. And they have that, ensemble of tight ends as well that they're able to roll out. So with Stafford playing the way he is, with the defense that can show up, and with a Bucks team that is still reeling with some injuries, I really like the Rams to win this one and do it pretty comfortably. I'll go Rams 30-20, so Rams minus 6.5 over 49.5. All right, and Monday Night Football, maybe one of the surprise teams of the year. I thought this team would win 5 or 6 games and it would be viewed as a success, but the Panthers sitting now at 6-5, right in the mix for not only a wild card spot, but for the NFC South as well. They traveled to the 49ers to play 7-4 49ers, who 8:15 kick on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Niners are a 7.5-point favorite. Over under is 47.5.
Yeah, I'm going Niners 24, Panthers 21, Panthers plus 7.5, and the under 47.5 hidden. As we both kind of talked about, the Bucks and Panthers both have 6 wins. But with that being said, I don't really believe in the Panthers at all. I think it's a cool story and good to see them improving, but I'm not really taking them seriously. I also don't know if I can take the Niners 100% seriously either, but that's kind of strictly due to injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. This is also the Panthers' only primetime game of the year, so I guess that's a fun little wrinkle. Maybe they'll get up more for this game. But with Brock Purdy back, Christian McCaffrey still doing his thing, and Kyle Shanahan calling plays, I'm just going to take the Niners to win it at home here. I don't think this is a super complicated game to pick.
Yeah, man, I'm still in the survivor pool, and I have the Niners at my disposal still, so I think I'm leaning towards them in this one. But this Panthers team has been frisky. Like, do I really think the 49ers, even with all their injuries, are a slam dunk. And they're starting to get a little bit healthier. The defense, I think, is a little bit more concerning. And you look at some of these Panthers wins, not over the greatest of opponents last week with the Falcons, who are a dumpster fire right now. The Packers, who, what Packers team shows up every week is always a question. Packers almost lost to the Giants last week. So I do like the 49ers here. I think the line's pretty indicative of it as well. I did see an interesting stat, though. The Panthers are 6-0 when they win the coin toss this year, and 0-5 when they lose it. So a little bit of a fun thing there, but I'll keep it simple here and take the 49ers to win, but the Panthers to cover. 7.5 is a lot of points in the NFL, and for a Panthers team that has been able to hang around it and compete against basically any opponent that they've had this season for the most part. Bryce Young, a lot of confidence, I think, coming off his best game of his NFL career. I think they give the Niners a bit of a scare, make this a little bit of a fight, but the 49ers find a way to win at the end of the day. Give me Niners 27-23, Panthers plus 7.5 over 47.5. All right, and to wrap it up, we'll go with our touchdown parlay, our dog of the day, and our lock of the week. Touchdown parlay, 2 legs each, one from Sunday afternoon and one from one of the primetime games. My Sunday afternoon touchdown leg, I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor, minus 170 against the Chiefs. Keep it simple there. Over these past few weeks, Jonathan Taylor has been minus 200 and above. It seems like he's scored each and every week, and while we like the Chiefs both to win this week, I like Jonathan Taylor to find his way in the end zone. If they're anywhere within the 5-yard line, he's most likely going to get in.
Yeah, my Sunday afternoon pick, I'm going DeAndre Swift plus 140 against the Steelers. He's been running really well this year. I think he gets in the end zone this week.
Monday night, I'm going to go with Rico Dowdle plus 100 against the 49ers. Since he's been basically given the keys to that backfield, he's been one of the top running backs in the league. He had a really nice run last week where he tiptoed on the sideline. They just called him out of bounds, but plays like that where he can catch the ball or run the ball and go for 50 yards at any point. I'd like to have one of those guys on your side. So Rico plus 100 at even money there against the 49ers, who offense is still cooking, but that defense is still you're able to do some damage on it, I think, with all their injuries. I like him to find the end zone this week.
Yeah, my primetime pick, I'm going George Kittle plus 120 against the Panthers. With Purdy back, I think he'll be looking for Kittle.
All right, dog of the day, our favorite underdog of the week. I'm going to go with the Vikings plus 6.5 at the Packers. Vikings last week, you thought they were going to beat the Bears. Bears hit a field goal to win it at the buzzer. Vikings are playing for their life this week, sitting there at 4-6. I know this is on the road at the Packers, but I don't think the Packers should be, a touchdown favorite versus anyone. I think this is a Packers team that's still really vulnerable, and more likely than not, this game's going to come down to the wire and maybe a field goal. So I like the Vikings plus 6.5, and I could definitely see them winning that one outright with how inconsistent the Packers can be.
Yeah, my dog of the day, I'm going Falcons plus 1.5 against the Saints. I didn't really love any underdogs this week. I think this should be a close game between two pretty bad teams who are divisional opponents. So I just expect a close game. So I'll take a flyer on Falcons plus 1.5 against the Saints.
All right, and my lock of the week, I'm going to go Seahawks minus 13.5 at the Titans. I know that's a big number, and I know the Seahawks are coming off a loss. Sam Darnold probably the worst game that he's played over the last 2 seasons, but this is a Titans team that is just an absolute dumpster fire. We've seen the Seahawks beat up on their inferior opponents this year. I think even on the road that they find a way to win this one. Mike McDonald has been a really good road coach, and I think they win this one pretty comfortably. The Titans are in full-on quit mode.
Yeah, my lock of the week, I'm going Bears minus 3 against the Steelers. The Steelers' defense isn't great. And with Rodgers either playing hurt or it being Mason Rudolph, I'll take my chances with the Bears.
All right, well, that'll do it for Week 12 in the NFL. As we say, always, it's going by quickly. But next week, we got Thanksgiving, one of my favorite shows of the year, breaking down all the Thanksgiving games and then the other meaningful games. And you touched on at the beginning, in the hunt, graphics being shown, playoff rankings. Exciting time for the NFL. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, please like, please subscribe, and we'll talk next week.